small area of the primary curriculum, learning how to write and then read, in order to give you a flavor for how carefully Montessori thought about the different materials and their connection with each other, and also in order to give you a sense of how interconnected things are across the curriculum. So Montessori would think about a task. What does a child need in order to do this? And in learning how to write and then to read, one thing they need is a strong pincer grip so that when they first start writing, they don't get tired and give up. Another thing that they need is to develop the wrist action. They need to learn to hold and handle the pencil. They need to be able to create the form of letters. They need to learn sound-letter relations. And finally, they need to be able to combine letters to make words. So how did Montessori do this? Well, one material is the wooden cylinders. The child takes the cylinders out, mixes them up, and then puts them back in. And one set varies in height, as does this one. Another one varies in width, and two other sets vary in height and width. Montessori said, you want this gradation because when a child starts getting tired of it one way, then you bring out the next set, and that inspires their interest all over again. Now, Montessori was very clear that this is not simply an exercise about fitting cylinders into their holes. This is from the original version, the way this was put. She said, "The aim is an inner one, that the child train himself to observe, that he be led to make comparisons between objects, to form judgments, to reason and to decide. And it is in the indefinite repetition of this exercise of attention and of intelligence that a real development ensues." So the child is developing their attention and their intelligence through using these materials. And, of course, at the same time, they're exercising the pincer grip. Next material that the child will get is the geometry cabinet. The geometry cabinet is a wooden cabinet that has about 12 different trays in it, and each tray has 6 different geometric objects on it. This one here is the triangle tray, and it has 6 different types of triangles. Children will learn the different names of different triangles, which helps them as they go on into geometry later, that they already know what an isosceles is and so on. They also, though, when they're using this material, they'll be learning the attention and concentration that they learned with the wooden cylinders will be continuing. They're also learning to make judgments, to reason, to decide. But they also will start to trace around the geometric figures, and that will start to develop the wrist action that leads into writing. The next material is the Botany Cabinet, and the Botany Cabinet teaches the children the different kinds of leaves. They learn the names of the leaves. Children in Montessori primary know names of leaves that most adults in our culture have no idea of. But they later will go on and learn about what different environments all over the globe these different leaves are adaptive in, why they're adaptive in different ecosystems. And they also, when they are learning the Botany Cabinet, will start to take an orange stick and trace around the outside of the different leaves. And that is starting to train them towards being able to hold and handle a pencil. There's no lead in it, so they won't make stray marks on the material, but they're getting the holding and handling a pencil down. Next material is the metal insets. And the metal insets, now the child starts to actually get a pencil with lead and start to trace inside. They start to make series of, say, parallel lines inside of the different metal inset shapes. There are 10 different metal inset shapes. Montessori was often working with 10 to try to get the base 10 system in children's minds in some form early. But also, she noted that when she put fewer metal insets out than 10, it didn't sustain children's interest, that something about having 10 would make children want to use them again and again. So children will get the pencil, they'll trace inside of, say, the triangle or the pentagon or the other shapes that are the metal insets, and then they'll do the series of lines. And children will go on with the metal insets on towards art. They start to put them together in different patterns and create these wonderful spirograph types of designs with them. But they're also learning to hold and handle a pencil. And it's important also with the metal insets that now they're made of metal. So the other materials were made of wood. With metal, Montessori said it's better to use with the pencils because you can clean the metal off much more easily than you can clean off the wood. So that's the reason why they're metal insets. And next, another material that children are getting early on that's leading from writing into reading is the sandpaper letters. And the sandpaper letters are cards that have sandpaper cursive letters on them. Montessori saw that children seem to do better starting to write with cursive than with print. She said that the act of needing to pick up the pencil and move it over to start the next letter actually disrupted the flow that you see with learning cursive. I think this would be an interesting study to do. I met a professor at Kennesaw State University who said that he had actually done such a study with the Montessori school where some classrooms had print letters and others had cursive, and that the cursive classrooms far outdid the others. It would be nice to see a systematic study gathering data on that. So children will take these sandpaper letters and they'll trace over the shape of it, and they'll learn to say the phonetic sound. Montessori was early with the insight that if you want children to learn how to read, it's best to start with phonics. That the whole language approach was a big mistake, a big waste of time. The research was quite clear on that. So children will learn to be introduced when children are 2 or 3, that when they're introduced to the sandpaper letters at 4 or 5, they're not nearly as interesting to them as they are at 2 or 3. So Montessori had the sense that there were sensitive periods for certain materials to be introduced, and saw it as being very important that time frame be stuck to. A next material that helps with writing leading into reading is the movable alphabet. This child has written "More to Mo is lost," and you can see the other child looking on, learning by observation there. So with this, the child doesn't need to worry about forming the letters. They can simply take the letters out and put them together to make words. And this boy in the picture is also using a sandpaper letter and starting to write at the same time. So he's at a more advanced level with this. So all of these materials then look like they're doing many of them look like they're doing different things, but if you think about each of their purposes, they each have a purpose that also is helping writing and leading into reading. And in a well-functioning Montessori classroom, children go through using these materials, not even realizing at first that they're leading them towards learning how to write and read. So they're just interesting exercises to do in the classroom. But teachers say what happens is all of a sudden one day, one of the 4-year-olds will realize that they actually know how to write. And they'll start to write and they'll get all excited and they'll want to do nothing more. And the other children will look on and realize, hey, I know how to write too. And you have this big explosion into writing in the classroom where suddenly all the 4-year-olds in the classroom are so excited writing, and the 3-year-olds are looking up at them, seeing what they're going to be able to do later. And about 6 months later, all of a sudden, lo and behold, the children realize they can read as well and start to read. I saw this happen with one of my daughters. Remember, we were driving down 29 North, which is kind of the strip in Charlottesville one day when she was 5 years old, and she was looking out the window, and she suddenly turned to me and said, "Jefferson National Bank. What's that, Mom?" It was the first time I had ever heard her read anything. So it happens when a classroom is well functioning and children go through these